What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson, back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about our Washington Commanders. Today is Monday, August 14th, and today marks week 4 of training camp. Well, yesterday actually, but there was no update for me. But this is the fourth and final week of Washington Commanders training camp. If you're a fan and you haven't been out to camp and you want to see the guys practice, this is going to be your final week to go out to Ashburn, the Ortho Virginia Training Center at Commanders Park, to go see the guys do it. And it's not going to be a full week in town because this week is the big week of practice. Joint practices with the Baltimore Ravens, our Beltway brothers down the road, up the road, if you will. But this is the week where shit goes down in practice. That's why yesterday and today's mood, temperature, and pace of practice was a little slower than usual. They picked it up a little bit today, but Tuesday and Wednesday, those next two practices will be full go against the Baltimore Ravens, a well-run, contending organization that from top to bottom does everything right. Like the closest to a controversy they've had was getting Lamar paid, and they got him paid very handsomely. They passed down front office duties from Ozzie Newsome to Eric DaCosta and haven't skipped a beat. Their training facility is beautiful. Their roster is really good, and they're one of the better drafting organizations in the league. So this is a very, very integral litmus test for our Washington Commanders. How do we stack up against our Beltway brothers that are contending for a Super Bowl in the AFC? They're one of the teams in Super Bowl contention. They've been there. They got an MVP playing quarterback. He finally has a plethora of weapons on the outside. Their line's good. Their right tackle is someone we know very well, Mr. False Start, but Mr. Awesome himself, Mr. Morgan Moses. And their special teams coach, we also know. He was a September legend once. You know, Washington always has those guys that have like a 2 or 3 week span where they're like the greatest player ever. Then we never hear from them again. Baltimore special teams coach is Chris Horton. I know y'all remember Chris Horton, the safety. He caught the pick. I believe he had a 2-pick game versus the Cardinals or somebody way back when Sexy Rexy was quarterbacking the team. But this is the most important week of training camp yet. Coming off our first preseason game where we were victorious, and after further review, after I was able to watch some more of that preseason game, the offensive line really is not as bad as I thought it was. It was just Andrew Wiley. The guards were kicking ass. Gates looked fine. And even Charles Leno was pretty stout on the left side. There was only one weak link to the offensive line, and the first sack was on Sam Howell. He didn't get the ball out of his hand to the flat, to the running back, to Brian Robinson Jr. So instead of an F grade, I'll give the line a C+. Maybe a B-. Nah, C+. We're going C+. Definitely. But quarterback looked good. The defense kind of blew me, but I'm not worried about the defense. I really don't even need to see the defense in preseason, but I'm very interested to see how the defense plays against Lamar Jackson, because Deshaun Watson was all of their offense last week, and most of it was with his legs. He was able to create on the ground. He was getting slippery, had the massage oil dripping off the uniform. Sweat and Chase were this close to having a sack. We've heard that story before, I know. But, yeah, Lamar Jackson, Huntley, Josh Johnson, they all have the ability to escape and the ability to create with their legs. And one of the few Achilles heels of this defense is quarterbacks that can move. Mind you, Daniel Jones every year carves us up like Virginia Tech Hokie Michael Vick. So that's what I'll be paying attention to defensively. I want to see how Forbes looks lined up with Odell and Zay Flowers. I want to see how our corners versus their receivers work. I want to see Sam versus a really good Baltimore Ravens defense. I want to hear how his days look. Because when they do 11-on-11s versus another team, you take those even more seriously than when we do them versus our own team, because we know our personnel. The guys in the locker room know each other. They know everybody's tendencies. And at this point, they know what EB is trying to accomplish in practice. Going against another team, a really good team with a pretty stout secondary, safeties Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, a guy most of the fan base wanted last year, and a guy that some people compared to 21. I didn't think so, but he's definitely a freak of nature. 6'4", lengthy safety. Marlon Humphreys, absolute baller on the outside. And I believe his corner on the opposite of him is Rocky Asin, who's solid, but Jahan gonna get in his ass, though. Our receivers, I like how they match up against any secondary. I'm very, very intrigued to see our receivers versus this secondary. And this O-line will be tested, man. Baltimore is very disciplined. They just got their $100 million linebacker, Roquan Smith, locked up. Him and Patrick Queen. Queen is the weaker of those two. They have a very good, well-rounded roster from top to bottom, and they have the greatest kicker of all time. He just hit another 60-yarder in preseason. Made it look effortlessly, by the way. Probably would have been good from 65. But this is the real test of training camp. This fourth week of training camp is the week everybody needs to be glued to Twitter for all of the updates and glued to YouTube to all of us content creators touching in on what happened. We had a scare at practice today. The best lineman on the roster, Sam Cosmi, our starting right guard, limped off with an apparent knee or leg injury. Rick Snyder said it looked good. He said he sounded like he was in pain. He had to be helped to the tent. But thank God he returned, y'all. He returned to practice, baby. He returned to practice like the big Iron Man that he is, and he showed up. Please, Cosme, we need 17 games out of you. We don't need any more injury-prone Sam Cosme in 2023 because you are the best lineman in this group. You are the second-round pick with the high relative athletic score. We need you to ascend to be Pro Bowl-esque this year because the line needs one of those, and as we currently speak, he is the most qualified to fit the billing for said position. But let me know what you guys are interested in hearing about and seeing about this week of joint practice. I'll be doing my NFC East training camp check-in with the boys tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Thursday. I got my Ravens guy, my Ravens intel, Jake Moskowski, coming on to give. We're going to preview our Monday nighter. We're on prime time, so there's no preseason game this week. Our next preseason game is 7 days away. At home, FedEx Field, Josh Harris's first home preseason game as owner of the Washington Commanders. And there's something on the line. It's preseason, but the Ravens have won 24 preseason games in a row. Like the most impressive preseason streak ever. Preseason doesn't matter, but it sure matters to Baltimore. Let's see if Sam and Jacoby Brissett can end the streak. Not that I really care about results, but it would be nice. It would be just like I don't usually care about results. I wanted us to win for Josh Harris last week. Why not keep the ball rolling and go into week 2 where this is the dress rehearsal game for the regular season? See, back when there was 4 preseason games, the third game was the dress rehearsal game where the starters play up to a half, sometimes 3 quarters or into the third quarter. But now it's game number 2. So this is the game we should see Sam and company play a half of football. So this is the closest simulation to regular season football we're going to get until September 10th, for at least Washington fans, because the season starts 4 days before that on Thursday with Kansas City and Detroit. But this week matters, y'all. Pay a lot of attention, and I am here for all the tidbits, all the highlights, and all the contents surrounding Washington versus Baltimore joint practice. I want to see how we mix it up versus a team that belongs. I want to know if we belong there or do we still look like we're far away. But updates will be coming to you all week. That's all I got for right now. Subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 8,000 subscribers. We're a couple hundred away, and we're a couple thousand away from my first real milestone on YouTube, and that's 10,000 subscribers. Subscribe to your boy for the real, raw, unfiltered Washington perspective from the lens of a diehard fan. That's all I got for right now. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Rio, out.